Alright guys, it's Wood Wednesday. We're going to be talking about this little gem you see before you with a pretty interesting history. And now as far as knife books go, the history is pretty vague. You have to kind of dig through forums and go down the rabbit hole and figure out how good your Googling capabilities are. But this is one of my favorite knives. It's kind of like a copperhead pattern, or maybe, I don't know if you'd call it like a sow belly trapper. Looks more like a copperhead. See, the tang stamp is obviously a bird. Some people back in the day called them partridge knives, but this is actually a Bob White quail from Bob White Cutlery. A couple chips out of this side and a crack on that mainspring pin. This side's pretty nice. But look at these mainsprings and the stainless, how clean it is versus the tarnished brass and the pitted slash darkened carbon steel blades. You can still very faintly see the Bob White etch on this main blade, on this clip point. So yeah, I'm not mint condition, but still a very cool piece for me, just because of the history. Great snap. Yeah, it's been used, it's been sharpened, it's been carried, but one of my favorite knives in the collection. Now, if that stainless doesn't just scream queen cutlery to you, then I guess we're about to get a history lesson. Excuse the dirty hands. Blue collar problems. You might not understand. Bob White Cutlery. First, we'll show you what the books say, which is very minimal. Now, granted, I only have 2 books. I'm currently searching for a third to kind of level out my collection, but for now, these are the 2 we will be referencing. By the way, this is Levine's Guide to Knives and Their Values, extensively revised, 4th edition. Bob White Cutlery. Quail. Picture. Santa Fe, Tennessee, USA. Retail. Circa 1979. And from Goins' Encyclopedia of Cutlery Markings, the more revised version, the latest version, the one that you can't find and have to pay an arm and a leg for. Quail. Picture. Circa 1979 to present, which during this time Bob was still alive, around 98 when both of these books come out. And both of those are some of the best references. I'm still looking for the Sam Houston Price Knife Collector's Official Guide 15th edition, but anyway, that's my problem, not yours. I haven't found one that I want to drop the change on yet, or that I feel has been a good deal. So, Bob White Cutlery. Bob White worked as a tool and die maker at various machine shops. That was his profession, and was also an accomplished gunsmith. And him and his son made custom knives. And they would travel to Knoxville, Santa Fe, and Chicago selling their custom made knives, and usually sell out at every show for their custom made knives. Damascus knives, switchblades, boot knives. They were very accomplished knife makers and gunsmiths. Bob was excellent machinist, gunsmith, and built custom rifles for long range shooting. Typically 50 cal Wildcat cartridges for long range, ring and steel. And Bob contracted Queen to make these Bob White pocket knives. They were available with yellow celluloid handles, or synthetic handles. I don't think they were celluloid, but anyway, yellow synthetic handles and the wood handles. I had a yellow handled Stockman that had been used and whittled down more than this one, and I sold it because I'm a dumbass. Anyway, Bob and his son Butch lived in rural Gibson, Illinois. Bob passed around 2015 to 16 in his 90s, and his son Butch passed around the same time frame in an auto accident. Not sure how old Butch was. Now, it was rumored, I haven't seen them, I'm sure maybe some of y'all might have come across one, that around 200 bone-handled pocket knives were contracted by Bob White with Frank Buster, aka Fighting Rooster, aka Friedrich Alberts, who made Bulldog, Fighting Rooster, some of Hinkle's knives, some of Kissing Crane knives, and Jim Bowie knives. Carl Schleipler. Sorry, I can't pronounce German words very good. Brand, Carl Schleipler. Forgive my hillbilly tongue. But Bob White was probably a really cool dude. Had great taste in folding knives because he contracted both of my favorite knives to collect, Queen and Alberts. Both. Those are the ones I look for more than any. I'm not a big case guy. I usually sell every one I come across just because they sell well, and they're not that interesting to me because everybody has them. I know y'all are all probably gasping and thinking there's something wrong with my brain. Probably is, but I'll go ahead and let this out right now. I'm a Queen fanboy, and I'm an Alberts fanboy, and older Hen and Rooster, A.G. Russell and pre-1980 original Bertram knives. That's what I like. That's what I look for. And I thought it would be cool to share the history of this simple wood handled, call it a copperhead, bob white cutlery pocket knife from my collection. If y'all want to do a little more digging on bob white knives and try to find one of your own, I would highly recommend it. Queen knives are top notch. Anyone happens to come across one of the Albert's bob whites, let me know. But anyway, I hope y'all found this interesting, informational, and just plain out cool for knife guys like me and you. Anyways, I'll quit fiddling with this thing and let y'all get back to your day. This is Hillbilly Proud. Wood Wednesday. Y'all have a good one.